Hi, this is the group of Reed, Jack, Don, Nathan, John, and Michael, and we're going to lay out the discussion on the Keystone XL pipeline. The objective of the project is to determine whether the construction of the pipeline would be socially beneficial, accounting for both the economic and environmental effects described in the review literature. First, we're going to talk about the timeline of the Keystone XL pipeline. Then we're going to talk about the parties and politics involved within the pipeline approval. Then the potential economic damage posed by the pipeline. And then for the anti of that, the economic benefits provided by the pipeline. We first want to start off with a map of the pipeline, which you can see here in green. Which is the XL expansion beyond the already approved red and orange segments that you see highlighted, which were part of the original Keystone pipeline.
This is the timeline of the Keystone XL pipeline. In 2008, the United States State Department offered a $5.2 billion permit for a pipeline. In July of 2008, TransCanada Energy and ConocoPhillips, co-owners of the Keystone pipeline, proposed an extension. This extension would extend the pipe through Montana, South Dakota, and Nebraska from Alberta tar sands. In 2009, TransCanada bought out ConocoPhillips for sole ownership of the Keystone and the XL. In 2010, the State Department releases its first environmental impact statement draft, which depicts little environmental harm. Secretary of State Clinton announced that the State Department is inclined to accept the pipeline's application. Governor Hyndman of Nebraska requested that the XL be rerouted to avoid the sandhills, a more fragile grass dune ecosystem. Congress passed a bill ordering President Obama to decide on the XL within 60 days. In 2012, President Obama rejected the presidential permit application for the XL pipeline. TransCanada restarted the federal review process by reapplying for the presidential permit, with a new route avoiding the sandhills in Nebraska. In 2013, the State Department released a review that other pipelines from Canada would be worse for the environment. President Obama announced that he would authorize the permit if it does not worsen carbon pollution. In 2014, the State Department releases an updated environmental impact statement with an updated route, but they fail to recognize environmental issues. A Nebraska judge ruled that an amendment added to state law is unconstitutional, pausing the project. In 2015, the Nebraska Supreme Court voted in favor of the law, resuming its progress. TransCanada asked to pause and review the process, and the U.S. government denied the request. President Obama rejected the pipeline. In 2016, TransCanada files two separate lawsuits requesting $15 billion in damages from the U.S. government. Donald Trump becomes president-elect later in the year, and he emphasized his support to TransCanada to reapply. In 2017, days after his inauguration, TransCanada reapplies after Trump allows them to do so. A more ecologically friendly route is selected, and Trump mandates that American steel be used for the pipe. In 2018, with the permit granted to TransCanada, the State Department releases waves of documents for public feedback. They were ordered to add to their environmental impact statement and update it to 2018 from their 2014 copy. In 2019, Trump authorized the building and operating of the XL, with the updated impact statement released. In 2020, a Montana judge ruled that the Endangered Species Act had been violated, and the Trump admin and co. are currently appealing.
Analyzing environmental impacts of tar sands. Origins. Tar sands are a mixture of water, clay, and bitumen deposits lying deep underground, and there are two main methods of extraction, known as in-situ mining and surface mining. Refinement is necessary to separate the crude oil from the mixture of tar sands, and these processes are often very intensive and very environmentally degrading. It is known as the dirtiest fossil fuel on the planet. Extraction and refining. In-situ mining, though recognized by the Canadian government as more environmentally friendly than surface mining, still poses many problems. It is very high in carbon emissions as steam is pumped deep underground to separate the bitumen from the soil, which is then extracted using a well. Because the steam needs to be heated, it is often heated through the use of burning other fossil fuels such as natural gas, which results in more carbon emissions. Surface mining involves the stripping of the earth and using diverted water, river water, to easily pump the tar sands through the pipes. This water is then completely contaminated and poses severe risk to local water supplies. This toxic wastewater is often stored in thousands of gallons in ponds, which causes a risk of contaminating the groundwater and bringing about many health risks to those who may consume it unwittingly. For every gallon of gasoline produced from tar sands, it's estimated that 6 gallons, or triple the normal amount for conventional gasoline, of water is used in extraction and refinement. Other environmental costs include spills. Because bitumen is often transported in natural gas liquids, this can pose a problem as the natural gas solutions pose destructive risks to pipelines, and then the bitumen becomes very stubborn to move and can often sink to the bottom of water bodies that it contaminates, which results in years-long projects trying to extract it and remove it again. Gasoline produced from tar sands generally results in 15% more emissions than that of conventional oil. Additionally, it's estimated that if all the accessible bitumen were to be sourced and used from Alberta, it would add around 22 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere.
Hi, my name is John Ninia, and next I'll be discussing the parties and politics that come into play in regards to the Keystone Pipeline. So as with any issue, Democrats and Republicans tend to vary with their opinions on this pipeline. Democrats, on one hand, do not support the pipeline, and this is seen in President Obama halting the installment of the pipeline, and Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, the two final candidates for the Democratic Party, both speaking publicly out against the pipeline. Democrats in general tend to believe that the long-term impacts of the pipeline will far outweigh any potential benefit it could have. Republicans, on the other hand, tend to support the pipeline, and this is seen in President Trump removing the halt that Obama placed on the pipeline very shortly after coming into office. Republicans tend to believe that the creation of jobs and to have more and cheaper fossil fuels will benefit our country. When it comes down to the numbers, though, things may shock you. In fact, only 35 jobs will be created by the creation of this Keystone Pipeline. There are many threats that this will pose to endangered species within the area. It is guaranteed to have leaks throughout its lifetime, and it will pass through sacred ground. So, with the analysis of the facts, as mentioned before, only 35 jobs will be created. So the argument for the creation of jobs that Republicans and Trump tend to support is not valid. Additionally, a further reliance on fossil fuels in the United States will actually push us back and not forward. Endangered species are another aspect which the Keystone Pipeline will threaten. The Keystone Pipeline will impact over 12 plus endangered species within America, including the piping plover and northern swift foxes. Also, with guaranteed oil spills, it's not a problem of if the pipeline will have an oil spill, it's when and how bad the issue it causes will be. Additionally, the pipeline passes through sacred grounds, which Native Americans live on, which they rely on the natural resources and water within these areas. The pipeline, with its leaks and damages to the local area, will impact not only local ecosystems and species, but also the Native Americans that live within this area, further compromising the quality of their health. The biggest issues when it comes to party and politics of the pipeline is that both parties are more concerned about winning than to do what is best for their country. It seems that people who are Republicans and people who are Democrats seem to just support their party's belief without actually understanding the facts that are behind the pipeline. Additionally, one of the most major issues of this pipeline is that the Native American tribes that are going to be affected most by the creation of this pipeline struggle to be heard.
The Keystone XL pipeline will impose an extreme impact on the environment. Perhaps the largest impact was the project's projected carbon emissions, with a net annual impact of 1 to 27 million tons of carbon dioxide produced per year. At an estimated cost of $50 per ton provided by the Environmental Defense Fund, this adds up to a total impact of $1.5 billion per year from the social cost of carbon. In addition, there's a probability, according to a TC Energy report, of an oil spill on a protected water body once in every 552 years. So taking data from the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill, where British Petroleum was forced to pay $22.1 billion for their spill of 3 million barrels of oil. This approximates a social cost of an oil spill from the Keystone XL pipeline at $6,700 a barrel. In 2019, the pipeline leaked almost 9,000 barrels in North Dakota, adding up to a social cost of nearly $60 million. In 2017, there was a leak of 5,000 barrels in South Dakota, adding up to a social cost of $33.5 million. And this averages out to about 4,500 barrels spilled per year over the past 3 years. And assuming that this would translate to the future of the Keystone XL pipeline, the social cost of oil spills will add up to nearly $620 million. In addition, there will be a habitat disruption for 7 federally protected species. There will also be significant soil erosion and stream ecology disruption from construction of the pipeline as well. In addition, nearly 15,000 acres of land will be affected by construction, with almost 6,000 acres permanently retained for operating the pipeline. And taking the average value of land in South Dakota at about $120 an acre, this translates to an economic loss of $640,000 from the stealing of land, with the potential additional loss of nearly $2 million, depending how badly the land is affected by the construction. And so adding all these up together, the total calculated economic loss from Keystone XL's carbon emissions, oil spill potential, and loss of land is $1.4 billion. However, there are several risk factors that are impossible to quantify. For example, like if the construction disturbs the soil in the surrounding area enough, this could even lead to severe economic loss for farmers. So it's possible that the total economic loss could be much larger than the given estimate.
Hi, my name is Jack Gustafson, and next we're going to be talking about the economic benefits of the potential Keystone XL expansion. First, we're going to touch on the initial construction benefits provided by the pipeline. There would be approximately 2,000 temporary construction jobs created in the local communities of Montana, Nebraska, and South Dakota, which would provide an immense immediate economic impact given the demographics of those communities. And additionally, $5 billion will be spent on the construction and design of the pipeline, which will heavily flow into U.S. design and manufacturing firms, providing nationwide economic impact. Lastly, it will increase pipeline access for Bakken crude producers in Montana and North Dakota by providing lower transportation costs and increased pipeline access, which will allow them to capture greater amounts of crude oil prices, which is especially impactful in today's low oil price environment. Next, we're going to touch on the long-term benefits of the XL expansion. First is the increased national security for the U.S. created by having a major pipeline with a key economic partner in Canada. Second is the lower cost basis for crude oil, allowing economic benefit for both major oil refiners in the Cushing, Oklahoma region, who are major employers of many across the U.S. And second is the lower gas prices seen at the pumps by U.S. consumers due to the lower raw oil cost faced by these refiners. In total, the expected impact is $100 million to $600 million per year by the Congressional Research Service. And secondly is the job creation due to the pipeline. So in addition to the short-term construction benefits, there will be 50 to 100 permanent jobs created directly by the pipeline and supported by it every year. There will be an additional 12,000 jobs supported by the pipeline working in refining, oil extraction, and manufacturing, which the pipeline helps fulfill due to its transportation benefits. In addition to these 12,000 jobs, approximately 26,000 will be supported indirectly by spending by these workers and companies due to the allowances provided by the XL expansion. And lastly, due to the rerouting of the pipeline to avoid the Sand Hills region, and due to research showing that oil extraction will not change with whether the pipeline is built or not, there is very little environmental downside posed additionally by the construction of the pipeline.
Now we're going to be moving into the effects that the Keystone XL pipeline would have on the global oil market. Looking at original estimates of emissions related to the Keystone XL pipeline, these estimates only took into account the oil that was directly being produced by the pipeline, which was estimated to be about 830,000 barrels per day, in comparison to the original pipeline, which produces 1.3 million barrels per day. This, when converted to an emissions estimation, this converted to about 27 million tons of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere per year, but this estimate did not take into account the effect that supply would have on demand. A later study then claimed that for every incremental barrel of oil produced by the Keystone XL pipeline, oil consumption would increase by 0.6 barrels. This implies that the Keystone XL would have both a direct and indirect effect that would result in carbon emissions, and this new estimate claimed that emissions would spike as high as 110 million tons of carbon dioxide annually. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the break-even pricing that would be required for the Keystone XL project to be profitable. So building the Keystone XL is extremely expensive, both due to the fact that developing tar sands and the construction of the pipeline itself will be major costs. In 2017, Forbes claimed that oil prices would need to hold above $80 per barrel for the project to remain profitable, which is a really high price. And compare this to other major industry players like ExxonMobil and Chevron, who both claim their break-even prices to be less than $30 per barrel. Earlier this year, Ali Kedri, former ExxonMobil senior Middle East advisor, said that $20 oil in 2020 is coming, and unfortunately he was right. Oil prices are currently seeing 20-year lows due to both overproduction of oil since 2014, backed by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Companies' stubbornness to decrease production when price started dropping, and then again by the COVID-19 pandemic, which really caused the oil market to crash completely. Oil prices fell below $20 a barrel for the first time in 1998. And now pulling this all together, given the previously estimated break-even pricing, it would be extremely difficult for the Keystone XL to remain profitable.
So in conclusion, we decided to look that in order for this project to make sense, the economic benefits of the project must exceed the value created from construction, job creation, and oil production over the estimated 20-year lifetime of the project. And so from our calculations of future cash flows generated by oil production, we decided to discount them down to today's dollars. So producing 800,000 barrels of crude a day for 20 years correlates to 187 billion in discounted cash flow. That's at today's conservative price of $32 a barrel. And the XL pipeline is also expected to contribute over $3 billion to the U.S. economy from construction. And so this number far surpasses the economic damage from emissions and social costs of only $1.4 billion. Thus, we decided that the Keystone XL pipeline makes economic sense and is set to be completed and in operation by the end of 2023.